Yep, I can. And
This is very good, all this technology. It's the first
isn't
time
it amazing?
I've done a webcam or podcast or whatever it is you call it.
You know you're jealousy. You see it's killing me. It's your jealousy. It's killing me. Sometimes you realize you've gone over the top. Just now and then, you know, it's time to stop.
Chats like that. But anyway, welcome to it podcast, whatever you want to call it. Ken Scott, who not seen you. I think the last time I saw you was with when you came to the 100 Club when Ita played there.
No, I've seen you since then. I saw you at place in Islington.
Did you?
Yeah, when you played. About 18 months ago.
I don't remember that. What, as Ita or?
Yeah, as Ita.
At Hope and Anchor?
No.
That was, the O2. That's right.
The O2, yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That was that was a fun gig. That was our first proper gig as the new Ita.
The new Ita.
The new band craze that's all going on with everyone, including the new Wasted Youth.
Mm-hmm.
And well, while you got your mouth full, what I'm going to do is I'm going to light this incense so that I create good vibes. I actually smoke. I light incense because I'm smoking, and if my mum comes in, then I can just say it's incense.
Oh, usually I'll smoke a cigarette. Then I burn incense after to hide the smell.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm doing it simultaneously, and I'm using.
I can smell it. Yeah, it's nice.
This paraphernalia of having a hob lighter as to light things with is very reminiscent of old days, isn't it? In old flats.
Very, very. Yeah.
And certain drugs being involved. Hang on, I'll just stick this in something so I don't have to hold it all the way through. But yeah, that was funny. I want to talk about that. Might as well talk about things as they come up because there's no set. So in those days, I'll tell you, I don't think I ever explained to you when I first got into Wasted Youth years back, which was actually because I was on the scene with my current band at the time trying to chase deals and all of that. And then all of my friends started getting into, like, our roadie, started with Ita's roadie, who I stayed friends with afterwards, who through Johnny Thunders and all of that kind of junkie chic, he got into smack in a big way. And then he joined a band with a band called Lonesome No More, which is Peter Perrett's wife's sister singing. Yeah. And they, of course, introduced him big time to all of that. And that's around the time that I started hearing of Wasted Youth. And I think you did a tour with The Only Ones around that time. Right. And Lonesome No More.
Yeah.
And so, and then I was getting into that. You know, I thought I'd never get into that kind of thing because, you know, but then I decided, after trying it, it seems great. And so it was, from then it was very quickly to getting well into that. And you very much seem to be lumped in with that sort of junkie chic thing. Before I allow you to speak, sir, I've just finished with saying that some journalist, a girl, she was from a record company. She's big shot. I can't remember her name now, but she was talking about you one night, and I was in some club, and of course I was hoping that she might be interested in my band and all that kind of shit. And she was going on about how Wasted Youth were what she was really interested in getting Wasted Youth onto whatever label it was she was on. And she thought there was amazing big things that she could do with the band. But the only problem was that the heroin thing was starting to become an industry kind of, you know, thing about this band. And the same thing happened to Peter Perrett at the time. And And it was a black mark against you, wasn't it, in those days?
Yeah, it was. Just to go backwards a little bit. All the band was, as most people of our age, our generation, were into sort of speed, bit of dope, drinking, but no class A's really as such. And it came about, I suppose, beginning of 1980, when a guy that I used to get speed off, one week he said he never had done, but he said, I got some smack. And I knew what it was, but I thought, well, no. But he kind of talked to me. He said, it'd be okay to just try it once. Usual, cliches, but I did try it once, and the second time and the third time. And, I'm sure you know, Andy, it's very, before long, the whole band was using it. Not with habits, but they was using it. And it became more and more regular. And, and the whole band having a habit. And at the time, I mean, nowadays, it seems everyone and their brothers have got a drug habit or a dependency on something or other. But back in the day, it wasn't, it wasn't something you publicised, you made public. And B, if people that were, so-called important found out about it, it was a kiss of death, really. But having said that, we were also guilty of. We didn't hide it. We didn't hide the fact that we were using. Perhaps that tender age, I can speak for myself. I was kind of into that whole rock and roll heroin chic. I mean, all the bands I loved, Iggy, the Velvets, Johnny Thunders, they're all my role models. They're all my role models. They're people I aspired to be like, or at least to follow in their footsteps if possible. And the drugs, heroin in particular, were just part of that. And at that age, I didn't really realise the consequences. And when I did realise the consequences, it was too late, really. And we had a number of major record companies turn us down because of heroin. And it really stopped us. I
think this woman, I wish I could remember her name, but I remember nothing. I remember a couple of things that I'm not going to tell you about, but she was from a big label, and they were, they were very. They thought it was all so marketable, except for that thing. Yeah. She said some funny comment about you. She said, and they all look so cute, and she goes, Ken's really cute, although he can be a bit chubby. He's not careful, or something like that.
Bastard. But I guess, looking back, Andy, sorry for interrupting, but I don't think I was ever chubby, but compared to the other four members who were really skinny ass, I was quite normal in size. But next to the others, perhaps I did look chubby, maybe. But it made, like, I remember it suddenly making rehearsing much more fun, because I always found rehearsing to be a bit of a drag. Yeah, tell me about it.
If there's someone's got a little packet or something, that makes everything very enjoyable. It was, and then it became like, I hope someone's got something this week. And then, and our drummer then started dealing, and he was dealing to he was dealing to Peter Perrett and people like that. And he's got well involved in it all. And so then he started always having, and then it was just smoking for a long time. And then eventually I was convinced that I should try this. And I did notice, that everyone seems to love putting it in their arms. And I had some terrible, I'll tell you something quickly terrible. You can tell me then something terrible. But so the first time I ever had it intravenously, I had this Aussie friend around here who showed me, or did it for me basically. Yeah. And he left me with some gear. And then the next day I wanted to do it again, but he couldn't come over. So I said, can you describe to me what to do on the phone? I was like, get that time and tie around there, go see that vein, that main vein, and I'm not thinking, I think it's that one. It goes, push the needle in, but not too far, not too far. Just make sure you don't fucking puncture the other side. And that's exactly what happened. And then an abscess then started forming on my arm and I wouldn't go to the doctor because I didn't want to say what happened. And so it started getting worse and worse and bigger and redder and more kind of, even wind would make it hurt, And I thought I'm gonna have it amputated if I don't do something. So I finally went to the doctor and he just gave me some heavy antibiotics. But if anyone's listening, don't ever try doing that by telephone. Always have a qualified junkie with you at the time.
Yeah, unfortunately, you never had YouTube in those days. You could have gone on YouTube how to fix.
You're right, I would have been on that. So go on, spit it out. I've done work. There's worse things than that, but
there's so many, Andy. I wouldn't know where to begin. Honestly, I'd be here all night telling you. But going back to when I got into it.
No, tell us one. You're not getting off lightly. Tell us one.
Right, what do you want to know, mate? What do you want to know?
Bad, just the thing. I consider that bad. I look back on that with shame. Right.
Yeah. All right.
With shame.
This is pretty appalling. I apologise to any followers watching this and are horrified. But I remember we'd done a gig somewhere in London. It was, I think, in Woolwich, of all places. And at the time, I was using snowballs a lot, doing cocaine and heroin in the same hit.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you're using snowballs, the cocaine, the high only lasts 5-10 minutes. And immediately you got craving to use it again. Well, we were just about to go on stage. I had a big hit before I went on. I went completely, first 10-15 minutes, I didn't know where I was. I was completely out of it. But lucky enough, I had the forethought to get another hit ready after the set before the encore.
Thinking.
But at the time, I just done it. I wasn't thinking. Obviously, I wasn't thinking clearly, but I didn't question what I was doing. It just seemed very normal. I had the money, I had the drugs, and if anything, the gig was kind of an interference, really. By the time that happened, my habit was completely out of control, and at first when we was using it, it was nice and it was new and we were young and that. But a year and a half down the road, it was a chain around my neck. Really, it stopped me doing anything, and the music became a means to an end, the means to get money, so I could get more gear, and then use the gear. And my love of music didn't go. But
what happened? But what was the bad thing?
Well, when we just finished the set, we come off stage and 5 minutes and people come for more. And at the time I was fixing my groin. And so I had to drop my strides, hitch me underwear up, fixing my groin. At the very same time, the promoter came in and I was standing in my pants. I got a set of works stuck in my groin, and I'm still, and the band are looking at me because they never stooped to that level. I mean, they were still using smack, but I was the only one using snowballs, and and I didn't for a second. I thought I was in shock, but then I thought I didn't give a fuck really. I think it was more important that I got to use the hit I'd got ready for between the set and the encore, and I done it. Went out on stage, was crap, couldn't remember anything, was all over the place. But somehow the gear and the coat, it made me not care really. I didn't care what people thought of me because I think I had such a low opinion of myself anyway, and that I was lost to my addiction. And slowly but surely, I was trashing everything that was that could have been good, purely because of my selfishness and the drugs, really. And I lost sight of the reason why I was in a band in the first place was to make music. And
I remember once when I remember a drummer, this drummer I'm talking about, saying once, we had a gig coming up or something, and there was a drought on at the time, and so it wasn't easy to score.
Yeah.
And he was saying, and I was saying, well, you know, we're gonna have to. So we have to still get things prepared, and we have to rehearse on this day. And he was saying, but are you going to still want to do the gig if you can't score? I was like, that's unthinkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I thought about that, and I thought, well, it would be fucking horrible. But no, yeah, it's. And have you ever done a gig where you've been so out of it that you can't actually sing like at all?
Oh, loads of gigs. Right. Physically, not being able to sing, probably a handful, but gigs where my judgment and my understanding what's going on around me quite often. I remember once we played at the Retford Porterhouse, and it was packed. It wasn't a big club, but it was packed, and we'd come up we was on tour, but we arrived in Retford. And I couldn't get any gear. None of the band, a couple of the band had a little bit of gear for themselves, but I didn't have any gear. Me and Darren didn't have any gear. And so we thought, what we're going to do, this is going on withdrawing and not having anything else to take the edge off. We didn't know. It was just, to even think about it was really horrifying. So we done the really sensible thing. This person we met at the gig offered us some acid. So we was withdrawing on smack, plus we'd done acid. And then I felt awful, absolutely awful. But then it was about 10 minutes to go on stage. So we went out on stage.
You were tripping?
Pardon?
You were tripping?
Yeah. So I've never been a big fan of hallucinogenics. I hadn't done acid then for about 2 years.
Yeah, but I mean, could you even, because I can't imagine actually, carry on with your story. So what happened? I'll tell you about my LSD on stage experience in a minute.
Yeah, well, I said I hadn't used it for about 2 years, and even till today, I've used acid maybe 7 or 8 times. But at the time, I hadn't used it for 2 years, and me and Darren chose to use it rather than, I don't know what we thought, better than going on straight or withdrawing. But as it turned out, it was fucking 10 times worse. But on stage, in answer to your question, I didn't know where he was in the song. I'm looking at Darren, who's also done the acid, not the whole band, just me and Darren. And he said that the strings on his bassist guitar felt like telegraph wires. And then I looked out of the audience. I swear, it's the only time I've ever played a model to a room full of smiling skulls. They was all looking at me. They was all the same, but they was all skulls. And I remember going to going, fucking hell, get me out of here, man. It was scary. It was scary. But
did you not feel freaked out? I mean, like, I can't do this.
Yeah, I did, but I guess I can't remember really clearly what I felt, but it wasn't pleasant. But I've since met quite a few people since we reformed who are at that gig, and a few of them said it's one of the best times ever saw us.
I tell you,
so what do I know?
Eater had just come back from a 2-week tour of Holland, and we had a gig that day we got back, and we were all knackered, and we had a gig that night in London at the Vortex Club, and usually we get some speed, you know, and so I phoned everybody, and no one had any speed, but someone had some LSD, and I thought I'd give that a try because I was really fucking knackered, and it was just, you know, it just freaked me out. It's just everything I didn't understand where I was, and everybody just looked terrifying to me, and I didn't want to be there. But then I somehow managed to I thought I've got to stop observing things and just try to get into the music, and then it turned out all right, and no one noticed. And only the band knew, and so it wasn't that bad. But I wouldn't advise it.
No, that was the only time I've ever gone on stage under the influence of acid, and certainly I would never do it again. But we played in Berlin, and I think it was the SO36, and again it was a really good turnout, and we managed to get it was okay, and so we weren't we felt good.
Mm.
But just about 10 minutes before we went on stage, the promoter passed me a joint, which I wasn't a big dope smoker. I'll have a spliff now and again, but I wasn't habitually rolling every day or all day or whatever. If it was there, I'd have it. So he gave it to me to share with Andy and again Darren. And I don't know what was in it. To this day, I don't know what was in it. But that was like sort of like a trip, but it was really it was like trippy and really speedy. I must say the gig went really well, but I didn't feel well. I didn't feel well. I didn't think I wasn't able to apply myself what we were doing, but that was just subjectively. I felt like that, but yeah, it was. I to this day I don't know what was in that spliff. It was certainly not anything what I was used to. It was pretty horrible.
When you finished with, how did your love affair with heroin end? What happened?
Well, it didn't. It never ended really. It ended, I suppose, in '81. Then for the final year, Wasted Youth were together, not just me, but for the whole band. We got to the point where, just to backtrack a bit, whenever we played gigs, we always earned good money. It was we never got a penny royalties, but it was always good money when we played live. We'd do a tour, 25, 30 dates, have a week not doing anything, and then gig for the next 15 nights out of 20. But so we had to keep doing that to feed that habit.
Mm.
But about a year before we split up, maybe 9 months before we split up, a manager hadn't been paying our agency at the time was I think it was International Talent Booking or something, ITB. Anyway, hadn't been paying any commission. So they got in touch with promoters and said that all the money has to go to them, then they'll issue it to the band, which was completely fucking out of order. And we all thought, this is impossible, because if we do any gigs, we're not going to see the money because the money's owed by management. And so we're paying, we're not getting royalties, we're not getting paid for gigs. And at that point, really, my heart went out of it, really. And the band, it wasn't just me, the band went out of it. We carried on for a year. We had some negotiation with the agent. So we pay half the money that was owed and we'd only get half the fee, which was better than nothing. But it was just the last year we was together, that was more or less happening all the time, those kind of things, and we run out of money. And for the last year, it was a means to an end, just to get money so I could get gear. And I'm sure you remember, it's different nowadays, where people are using drugs, they can make a phone call and they're at their front door within 5 minutes. Back in the day, I had to travel all the way over to West London or South London by public transport, feeling ill, withdrawing, and all that. Every day, every other day, I felt like that, and it just wore me down. It just wore me down. Pardon?
Stockwell was always
Stockwell. I used to go to Stockwell a load of times. There's a few dealers around there. Not only they weren't big dealers, but other junkies really. Yeah. And we used to, if someone phoned me up and they wanted some gear, I'd know someone that had some gear, so they'd come up to me and I'd take them around for a turn on, and it would go carry on like that. But it was really messy and it was fucking hard work. I'd wake up in the morning sick, spend the next 3 or 4 hours trying to get the money together, either by selling records or equipment, and then traveling to wherever I had to travel to. Then, but it was like that every day. It was really, really hard work.
Yeah.
Really hard work.
I remember once going to Stockwell was a regular.
Yeah.
And I remember once going there. I used to hang out with Nigel Preston, who used to play drums for the Cult. And he was also one of the people that got into the whole scene. And he took me to this house in Stockwell, big crumbling old mansion. And they were freebasing coke. Someone had just got back from in Peru or somewhere. And they were freebasing with this big glass thing. And we were all sitting around, and they were quite heavy dudes, but we knew a couple of the people, and they were being quite free with this bowl. And then we were just getting up to go to leave, and suddenly the lead kind of the boss suddenly comes storming into the room and he says, someone's nicked the coke, and there's like kilos of this gear. And well, I don't know how much it was, but probably quite a lot. And so he wanted to search everybody, and he took everybody one by one into the bathroom and went stripped, fucking naked and everything.
Yeah.
And I was, I knew that I didn't have it. So
yeah.
And I didn't think Nigel had done it either. But it was Nigel. And so we all left and Nigel stayed behind.
Oh shit, Nigel.
And then he died a few years later.
Oh really?
Yeah,
right.
I think he OD'd. But were you into the cult? Did you like?
Yeah, I knew some death cult. I think we played them a few times, and I knew them. And yeah, I liked that. I kind of felt it was that new sort of sound, a bit more tribally drums, and that was like what we'd done, but taken a bit further. It's a bit more rocky than some of them bands were a bit rockier than what I wanted to do. But yeah, I can't say I was ever mad on them, but yeah, I gave them time of day.
I think they made it out of all of those bands. They made it because they weren't into drugs. And
yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned Billy. Well, you didn't mention Billy, but you mentioned Lonesome No More. And the cult, Billy Duffy. When we were on tour with the Only Ones and Lonesome No More, Lonesome No More was opening up the show on the tour. Then we were on, then the Only Ones. But obviously we become good friends with Lonesome No More. But Billy, he was so clean, and good luck to him, good on him as well. Even at a time, I had utmost respect for him sitting around a table full of 10 people and 8 of them were junkies, and he was offered it loads of times and he always said no. And big up to him.
He was very determined, to make it.
And a great guitarist.
Yeah, and he knew that getting into all of that stuff was...
Well, and it took around him the other members of his band, us, and it's okay when we'd had a hit or we'd had some gear or whatever, but chances are that was only true for 25% of the time. The other 75% of the time, we was all scratching around for 5s, 10s, running around here and there, feeling rough. Yeah. So I think that was enough, hopefully, to put him off.
Did you know Nick Holmes, the drummer from Lonesome No More?
Yeah.
Right. He used to be Eater's roadie. He was my mate at school.
All right.
He was a year below me at school. Yeah. And he was a lovely guy. And but he got well into all of that. He became obsessed with Johnny Thunders, and then after joining Lonesome No More, that was the end. And he also fell in battle.
Yeah,
quite a few years back.
Yeah, so many people I know, musicians, but friends and that, met an untimely death, really, but a real premature death. And I consider myself really lucky to be here. Not for necessarily anything that I did or didn't do, but I just think something happened that kept me alive for some reason, and I still feel blessed in many ways.
Nick Holmes was busted once in a jeweller's shop in Hatton Gardens where they do all the jewel trading and stuff, secondhand stuff, and he burgled some house and he had a load of stuff, and he just got receipts for all of this and all the money on him, and he goes into this pharmacy to get some works, and he doesn't know it, but there's a couple of plainclothes cops behind him, and because he bought syringes, they then started asking him questions. And they asked, and he said they bought these syringes because he goes night fishing, and if you blow up the maggots, like a bit bigger. But they didn't believe that, and then they searched him, and then he went back in the van.
They found his fishing rod.
Yeah, that was good.
But you see that, I remember me, Rocco, and Darren again. We had some money on for some reason. Well, about 50 quid each. And at the time, we were scoring in Ken Market Kensington, you know, and we'd been scoring up there for about 3 or 4 weeks, and it was always reliable. Get there, see one of the guys that we was selling stuff, and we get it and we'd go. That was when it was fine like that. Then one day we saw the guy and we bought 5 20-pound wraps of gear between me, Rocco and Darren. I think it was 2 of us had 2 wraps and one had paid for 1 wrap. So we've got the gear. I've got the gear and I put it in my mouth and we've gone to leave the Kensington Market. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, this bloke's come up to me, grabbed me around the throat. He's in plain clothes. And all of a sudden, like 3 or 4 blokes have come out from nowhere, also in plain clothes, hold their cards up, police cards, identify them. And they said, open your mouth. And I couldn't anyway, because he's got his hands up around my throat. Darren and Rocco are looking on. And I'm thinking, what's more important, that I keep the gear or I'll just pay along? So he's let go of my throat a bit. With that, in one go, I've necked it. I've swallowed all 5 packets. Then they searched me. I didn't have any works on me because I would have got to go back to my house to use it. But I didn't have any works or any paraphernalia on me. But so the police were really pissed off. But not as pissed off as much as Darren and Rocco. So we left Kensington Market, walked down the road to McDonald's. And in McDonald's, we got about 10 little sachets of vinegar each, emptied it into about half a pint in a McDonald's coffee cup, empty cup. And Darren and Rocco insisting that I drank it so I could puke the stuff up. So anyway, I had to play along with them. So I'd done the whole half pint of pure vinegar, and it was absolutely disgusting. And I felt ill. I was gagging. 10 minutes later, it came out, and 3 bags came up. Yeah, okay. Still in wraps and still in a cling film and all that.
Result. Yeah,
well, yeah, kind of. I preferred it not to, really. I preferred to have found it. But anyway, Darren and Rocco, at least they had something. But in the meantime, I had still 2 packets inside of me. And so, and I told him, I said, I'm not going to do that again. I said, I don't think there's anything more come up. But so they went on their way and I went back to my house, used the gear. Then about 2 hours later, it just came up anyway. So it was a good day for me, really. I had 2 bags of gear, one that I hadn't paid for.
And never got busted.
And it never got busted. So, yeah, it was a good day.
Hold
on, Andy. I'm just going to shut this blind because I'm aware that I'm kind of...
It looks quite good. It looks like you're in a movie.
Oh.
So when you kicked it on the head with the gear, was that a painful process?
Well, it wasn't, because Wasted Juice officially finished in December 1980. Then for the next 18 months, I was ducking and diving. I wanted to do music. Occasionally, I'd try and write something. I'd write the beginnings of the song or very basic chords and some words. But most of my time was spent feeding my habit. And by that time, I didn't have gigs money or anything like that. I'd done a few gigs under the name Wasted Youth, but used 4 pickup musicians just as a means to get money, really. And looking back, it was horrible, really. It was horrible. The under-rehearsed.
When you came off, like there must have been at some point you got
clean. Yeah. But so for the next year and a half, I was just a regular street junkie, really, ducking and diving, being ripped off, ripping people off. I wasn't a criminal as such. I never saw myself as a criminal. I'd never been, up to that point. I'd never been into trouble with the old bill before, and I just wasn't cut out to be a criminal. But I think I was a victim of circumstances or
what part of London were you?
Pardon?
What part of London were you?
Then King's Cross. I lived in a squat.
Handy place to live.
Yeah, I lived in King's Cross as a squat. And so I stopped playing with the band. Then the next thing I knew, I started busking down King's Cross. And I was busking. I didn't even have a pair of shoes. I was walking on the street and I didn't have a pair of shoes to put on. But I'd play about 3 or 4 songs. A Freight Train I play, Bad Moon Rising, but a couple of other numbers.
No Wasted Youth songs.
No Wasted Youth songs. No.
Wish I was a girl. That would have been good.
I did get recognised though once. Once I was busking, and a guy came up to me. He said, "Did you used to be in Wasted Youth?" And so I said, "Yeah, guilty." But anyway, so that carried on, and yeah, my health was going down, and eventually, me and Andy and my brother, long may rest in peace. We was dealing it a little bit, and not big time. It was about a few £100, keep turning it over. But it took that pressure off me having to go out every day to get money and to get gear. But we got busted. We got busted in King's Cross in a prostitute's flat, and we got nicked. I was on remand for the first 6 weeks. I was banged up with a bank robber who was in for 9 years, and he'd been caught with a sawn-off shotgun. But the good thing is he had a big habit, and he was on remand, and he was getting every day visit from his wife, his brother, and the next 6 weeks, my habit went through the roof. He was a really, really nice guy. I can't mention his name. I haven't seen him since. But he'd come back to cell. We'd wait for it to go lights, lock up. And then we'd just be up for 5 or 6 hours just getting stoned on gear and a bit of dope. And then after 6 weeks, they ghosted him out to another prison. So I was left in there. I had this fucking idiot I was banged up with, real fucking... even thinking of him now as a complete arsehole. And I was withdrawing, and I was withdrawing badly. And at the time, I couldn't go to the screws and say, "Oh, I want methadone" or whatever. I just had to go through it. And, but, up to 2 weeks, it was kind of easier than on the outside, because on the outside, I had the temptation of I've only had to go out and make a phone call. In prison, I had no option. I had to come off gear. And I suppose I could have bought some in there, but I didn't get into that scene, owing money and whatever. Right. So for 2 weeks, I felt, 90% normal. Then about the next week, I felt fine. And then after 3 weeks, I was clean of any addiction. And that was the last time I didn't a habit.
Really? Wow, that's brilliant.
And that was the end of 1984. So I started in 1985 clean.
So what made you change your mind about, because most people who get clean, especially after being in prison, they're straight back on it again. What?
I guess because I've got 2 years. I was in prison for 2 years.
Did you serve 2 years?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Because at the time, I think...
Okay, that's it. Wait. Before you go on, we'll pick that up where we left enough now. But on the point of prison, because I've asked this question to a few people, if you, at the start of your 2 years in prison, if someone had come up to you and said, would you wank off the prison guard, strangle a puppy, or eat a sandwich full of the other guys in your cell's shit, and you're out of there straight away, which would you do any of them, or would you serve your 2 years?
With hindsight,
no one would know about the guard,
I was hoping they didn't. I was hoping no one got to hear about that.
You actually got 5 years. That's why you got out.
No, I don't know, Andy. But in answer to your question, if when I'd gone in, if I'd been offered this and that, I would have taken it. All I could think about was getting gear and smack and coke and whatever. But once
prison must have been horrible. It must have been fucking
It was horrible. It was complete culture shock to me, because I never ran with those people, those criminals or whatever, and it was a complete culture shock. And but after about the first 6 weeks, 2 months, 6 weeks, 2 months, you kind of got used to it. And I made a conscious effort that I wasn't going to be one of these people that are picked on and are bullied. By the same token, I wasn't going to pick on anyone or bully anyone. And so there's a few guys in there that I made friends with, and I kept to them really. And obviously later on during my sentence, my brother Andy was in with me doing the same sentence as me. And
nice.
For the last 6 months, we went to the same semi-open prison.
Right.
But up to that point, it was
Could you socialise with him? Could you socialise with Andy?
Yeah. And there's quite a few musicians in there for different reasons. Well, for drugs and that, but there's quite a few.
Right.
But
so what did you do with your time? Did you write anything? Did you?
Yeah. I wrote loads of stuff, loads of letters to people that I probably haven't written to since. Anything to fill my time. I had a radio, and I was in 23 bang up. You was banged up 23 hours a day. Got 1 hour exercise a day and one shower a week, and it was horrible. It was horrible, but of riding that. Once I got clean, once I woke up in the morning and I wasn't craving gear and I wasn't physically struggling, I felt good about myself. I probably felt better about myself then than I'd ever felt in my life before. Yeah. I felt I wasn't taking drugs. It's amazing. I was thinking clearly.
When you've been using gear for a long time and then you get clean and you're over the worst bit.
Yeah.
You're suddenly starting to feel well again. That is quite an amazing time. And it's because, I mean, those drugs, heroin especially, just it suppresses all of your spirit, your soul, everything that is lively about you just gets kind of pushed down. And so when it bounces back up again on the other side, it's like an amazing thing. And you do wonder what the fuck you were doing, you know?
Absolutely. I think I was in prison, but I was clean. But even then, I kind of rediscovered my love of music. I never lost it, but it was there, and I could right on the radio. John Peel and that I listened to, rather than the pop shows. But I just think I started having a belief in myself, and a belief that I'd never had before. Perhaps because I was obviously older, but a few years older than when Wasted Youth started, and before Wasted Youth, I was in the band The Tickets, and like you were saying earlier, we played the Roxy and the Vortex. But this time in prison, when I was clean, I thought I quite liked myself. And that was the first time I couldn't really say that about it. Because even throughout the bands or any bands, I always had this, nagging feeling that I wasn't good enough. And emotionally, I was lacking all kinds of negative things about myself.
When you're trying to work your life out at that stage, late 20s or
mid 20s, that was
I was about mid 20s as well. It's you haven't really stopped ever to think about what you're doing with your life until then, and all of these extra experiences you have and find, like drugs and everything else, is you just sort of do it because you don't know what you're doing. You
don't question it. You don't question it, do you? You just, it's like a roller coaster. You're going full speed and wow, this is great. And you don't question it. And you go along for the ride.
And then when it seems like you have to go through the mill, and if you come out the other side better, it's when you look back on it, I don't think you would say that you wish you hadn't had those experiences. I certainly don't think. I don't regret.
No, I don't.
Any past experiences. It's just, I wouldn't like to repeat them, but they're valuable, aren't they? And I think if there's a point, to life, then I think it's those experiences that you encounter during your life, and some of them are most valuable things have some sort of journey and a battle and a kind of resolution at the end. And addiction is a very archetypical kind of framework for that. And so it's great. Everyone should take drugs and become.
But strangely, when I come out of prison, remember, I come out completely clean. I come out of prison, I had me carry a bag with belongings or whatever, and I bought 4-pack of beer, strong lager, Tenant Super. And unbeknown to me, all I've done really was switched my addiction to heroin onto alcohol and all other drugs except heroin and cocaine. And but at the time, I thought I was clean. I was telling everyone, "Oh, I'm clean, I'm clean." But for the moment I woke up, I'd down a can of beer, I'd use dope, I use other drugs, and obviously I wasn't clean. But that kept me going for 2 years, thinking I was completely all right. But then in about 1980,
at least you weren't taking heroin, so
at least I wasn't taking that. But the alcohol, in some ways, was fucking worse. It was legal. I couldn't get arrested for walking down the street with a carry bag full of beer. But by the same token, I'd get back to my house or wherever I was staying. I'd drink the beer. I'd be completely incapacitated. I couldn't even walk to the toilet. I'd piss in empty cans because I couldn't get it together to get to the toilet. And I was a real fucking mess. And a big change come for me. I mean, where the catalyst really, it was about 89. I was at a party in Elaborate Grove, and I was up there on this roof terrace, and Primal Scream were there. Loads of bands were there with Elaborate Groovers, and I was there. My girlfriend was there, and it was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Everyone was enjoying themselves. I was slumped down on this roof terrace, unable to stand up. Fucking my eyes, I wasn't with it. Then all of a sudden, I was aware of this shadow sort of standing up in front of me, and I was looking back, and I looked up, and it was Rocco. It was in Flesh Lulu then, and he said, "What's happened to you, Ken? What has happened to you? I don't recognise you." He said, "This isn't the Ken that I knew when we first met." He said, "I used to look up to you." He said, "I used to think, yeah, this guy knows where he's going, blah, 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 blah." And he said, "Now look at you." He said, you're pathetic. You can't stand. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. All these people around. You don't give a fuck." And bravado, I put a face on. I put, waved him away. But inside, obviously, those words really hurt. They really cut me up. I didn't want to show that. So after that party, I went away, and I carried on the drinking and the drug behaviour for about another year and a half, and until the end, I was having fits through seizures, through alcohol. Not having enough alcohol. I've still got stitches all under my chin where I fell on the escalator at Brixton Station because I was so drunk, and I come down at half the escalator face first, and all under my chin I've got scars. And it seemed no different really from heroin, apart from the fact that I couldn't get nicked for it. But my life was in such a mess, and it was horrible.
I think heroin is just one of the things that are available for people to, disassociate with life. But it's a lot more hardcore than alcohol. You know? But it's the same kind of idea behind.
But the thing is, there's a heavy people
not feel like yourself.
But I was just it was compulsion. As soon as I opened my eyes in the morning, physically I didn't need to have a drink, but I was so used to doing it, I'd crack up a can of beer while I was in bed, and the day just went on from there onwards. And every day I was a mess. I'd done some recording with a band, and we released an album out in Germany. And I managed to keep it together while we'd done that. And a few things I'd done, I managed to get through some way. But towards the end of into 1990, I was at my lowest ever really for some time.
Right. And then, so after all of that, did you leave music completely, or?
No, because in 1990, I went into treatment. I went first for detox for a week, for alcohol detox. Then I went for 3 months in rehab, and where there's about me and 15 other people in a house in Turnpike Lane. I come out of the 3 month rehab thinking I've cracked it. the first thing I do when I left it was to walk into an off license and pick up a can of special brew. But the time I went to buy the special brew and the time I first went into treatment, it gone up by 30 pence. So I was 30 pence short for a can of special brew. And the guy behind the counter wouldn't give it to me for the £1.20 I had, and he wanted 150. And so luckily I went out and I thought, what the fuck? What am I doing? Fucking everything I've worked for, everything that I started seeing clearly. I thought, yeah, what am I doing? I went back to the rehab, and then I went into a dry house with 3 other men in Camden, dry meaning no drugs and alcohol, for the next 2 years. And I started going to NA and AA, and I took it really seriously. For a couple of years, it was just about recovering.
Did you like AA? Because a lot of people find AA off-putting because of the religious thing, which I don't think you have to take all that much notice of. But I went to a great AA that I had, because I lived in Surrey, and Ringo Starr and Eric Clapton both went there, and so I used to see them quite regularly. And I once got Ringo Starr to record onto my phone, because my son at the time was really into Thomas the Tank Engine, and he watched all Ringo Starr narrating them, and I got him to say, "Time for bed now, Max."
Brilliant.
So
Excellent.
So I've got nothing but glowing references for AA because of that.
You just touched on it briefly. I done about 2 or 3 attempts at doing it for AA, and of course, each time I look for the differences. Oh, I'm not like them. They, I can't relate to them. They live in different lives. So I move in different spheres to them. But on about my 4th attempt, I realised then that it's not about the differences. It's about the similarities. And all the people telling their stories, it didn't matter where they come from. They're similar to my own. And in actual fact, in NA, or in AA, they have God. And I was used to interpret that, because I'm not into religion, not into any organised religion, but I interpret it and use the word to stand for group of druggies or a group of drunks, GOD. And that kind of helped me get the mindset, really, like to get over that religious thing and start taking from it what I could that will make me better.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and then, skipping way forward.
Yeah.
Right. So, I know you worked. Is it social work you were?
I'm a social worker. Yeah.
Are you retired now?
I wish. I've got 2 school-age kids. And which are not cheap,
Yeah.
And
I thought you mentioned.
Sorry.
I thought you mentioned retirement a couple of years.
Well, I would like to have, but no, I'm still. But however, this week, just last week, I've gone down to doing 3 days a week, because I'm finding it was too tiring. And I'm a 68-year-old bloke now. I'm an old man, and Did you find moving back into when Wasted Youth came back to life again? Yeah.
Does it tire you, like having to juggle a job and doing the band at the same time?
No, at first it was a bit difficult, because we'd only been together, played live together about 6 weeks, and we were doing the Psychedelic First tour.
Yeah.
And trying to get time off work, and not just me, all the band, Ray, Rocco, Alan, and TC, then Rocco's wife at the time, all had full-time jobs. So, but anyway, we'd done the tour and it was brilliant. And so I didn't find it particularly difficult being tired, but even to this day. But there are times when I'm behind the computer, I'm contacting hotels and van hire and sorting things out. And I thought, I didn't sign up for this reformation to end up with a 3rd office job, because really what I wanted to do was, travel to the gigs, play the gig, come off stage. And that's what I wanted to do, write songs. All the other stuff, all the crap that goes with it, I could well live without. And finally, just on point, I've said this to many people. Back in the day, well, not even just Waste Stew, but even later when I was in other things, you could phone up and see if they had availability for a gig. You'd agree on the phone there and then. You'd be playing the gig in a week's time, and it would be in Melody Maker, Sounds Enemy, everything would be centralised. So everyone kind of could take their pick from the list of gigs in their town, whatever. Nowadays, with the internet, it takes so long to do anything. You send an email or a text, you get a reply 2 days later, you reply to that, wait another 2 days, gigs are booked up 6 months in advance. And
tell me about it. It's a real fucking hassle.
It's such a hassle. I really wish you could just phone up, do a gig, announce it, it'd be in these few magazines, and that'd be it, really. And all this other stuff with social media and playlists, and Sabrina, who plays bass voice to do nowadays. And she's obviously, well, not obviously, but she's younger than I am. She's in her late 30s. And Joe, the guitarist, he's 30. They're much more in tune with social media and that kind of thing. But it's so much rubbish you have to do to put on there. And I hate it, Andy. I hate it.
I don't even like the fact that I'm acquainted. I myself, I know about social media. I don't even want to know really about social media. I don't. You have to kind of do a bit of interaction with it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you do.
It's but I went to see you early on. That's how we kind of met.
Hold on there. I'll just get a cigarette. Go
for it. This is a smoking show. Dear John, you better get your fucking arse in here.
Well, kids, if you're watching in this and you see me and Andy smoking, then you choose not to smoke.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, this is turned into a recovery special now, anyway. So
it went from war stories. Now it's into recovery. The other chapter.
Yeah. It's everything is in grades, so heroin very bad, alcohol not so bad but still bad, down silly old cigarettes. Fucking don't
you know what? When he's 18 now, my son, when my ex was pregnant with him, she kept going on with me about stop smoking, but I did. About a week before he was born, I stopped smoking. I was a fucking nightmare for 2 weeks. I didn't even recognize myself, the way I lost my temper and I said horrible things. But I understand that's quite normal when you're coming off nicotine. Then I was clean for 5 years. I mean, I didn't smoke or anything, no drugs, anything. And I felt good about myself. Then I got diagnosed with kidney cancer at the hospital in 2013. And the first thing I did, true to what I'd done in the past, I went to a shop and I bought fags. After 5 years not having a cigarette, I had a fag because it felt like something that I knew, and it was something that would just enable me to think clearly. And
the way I look at it is that once you get to a certain age, if you've given up all of the worst things, and you don't even fucking drink, then it's got to be one vice. You know what I mean? But yeah, I came down to see you because my mate Paul Bedford. Do you know Paul Bedford? I know. Yeah. And he invited me down, and I really wanted to come. Because usually I'm not that bothered about going to see a band, but I thought, what did you throw? Because I really loved that album. I got into it actually years later. I didn't really get into you properly at the time, but in the sort of early 90s, someone gave me a copy of that album and I played it over and over. And so I was really interested to come down, and I expected it to be, I wrote that review in the end for Louder Than More, I think.
Did you come to the first one, Andy?
Second one, I think.
Oh, the first one.
And so I was expecting to be let down, because it's a difficult thing, reforming a band, to get it right, to make it worth trying to be good. But I was really surprised, how good. And I liked the whole, rather than squeezing into leather trousers and play rock and roll, you were kind of more like The Exorcist. I really thought that was pretty cool. I think Rocco was a little bit worse for wear that night.
I think Rocco's the worst for wear most nights.
But I think a bottle got broken on stage that he was using as a slide thing, and then he made the mistake of deciding after your set's finished to come on and do a little solo.
So hold on, Andy, I've got to correct you. That was the first gig. That was the first gig.
Was it? Oh, right.
Yeah. And we'd rehearsed a load of times, but we rehearsed that week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and the gig was on a Saturday. And after the Tuesday and Wednesday, I looked at others and I thought, this sounds amazing. This is going to be so good. We're going to clean up. We're sounding so good. Yeah, when the gig happened, Rocco was really more drunk than usual. Ray, the other guy who was playing guitar for us, Ray Hansen, used to be in the Hypnotics, was also really drunk. And also there was a bit of, how can we say, a bit of an ego war between both of them. I don't think one song we did was how we'd arranged it. And we was playing the choruses when there should be something else. And I came off stage, and for two days, I was inconsolable. Stupidly, in my head, I built it up as the gig of the century, you know?
Yeah.
And afterwards, I could look back and I think, what? A lot of people really enjoyed it. They enjoyed it for the event, and they saw us.
It wasn't that the set was fine, right? The set I thought was sounded. I was blown away by it, but
nice, thank you.
What happened afterwards is kind of
It's
just a funny thing, but I thought it was great, and so and then I came to see you at Dingwalls or Powerhouse as it was then, and I think I saw you again as well. So I'm quite a fan. I'm glad you're still going. I'm glad you're still doing. You got a new record, is that right?
Yeah. We've got a new album called Neo Noir. It was recorded last year. It was over about a 7-month period, but it wasn't recorded for 7 months. It was a day here, an evening there, when we could afford it, when we could all get in the studio or whatever. And we finished the album beginning of this year. I produced it. I've produced stuff in the past for different projects, but I produced this because I knew how I wanted it to sound. Yeah. And I thought at the time, even now, I think that some people might be disappointed. Maybe they're expecting a follow-up to Wild and Wandering. But you know, how could it be a follow-up? 2 of the members were dead. There's been such a
that's a very good question, because that is so difficult to, because I've been, since Reforming Eater, we've been thinking of an album. Yeah. But it's so complicated to everything we think of is like they're gonna, it won't work, you know. It doesn't feel right. I've every time I've tried to write something new for Eater, like for my own stuff, it's a different thing, obviously, but whenever it's difficult trying to write something and thinking, how could this be Eater? And so we've come up with a great idea, and we've got an album deal. It was amazing as well. So we've actually got a proper paid up front money album deal for it.
Wow, that's good.
It's quite a wacky idea, and I won't spill the beans in it, but it's difficult, isn't it? And do you feel as though you delivered on that for yourself?
For a while, I was in a bit of a quandary, really, thinking that, you know, it's not a follow-up to Wild and Wandering, but Fisher, technically, I suppose it is. You know, it's the first official Wasted Youth record for 45 years. But as I said, in my mind, it wasn't a follow-up. I thought I had to be true to myself. And I think, and I thought, you know, I believe in this album, and I know the rest of the band do. And it might take listeners a little bit by surprise. Obviously, it's more mature because I'm 45 years older then, and there's been such advancements in technology and the music scene in general. But I could only write new material. There's two songs from back in the day which we never recorded properly. Man Found Dead and Fishes were 2 songs we demoed, but the other 8 tracks on or 7 or 8 tracks on the album. More recent stuff, right? And I think they reflect.
I heard
they reflect about different influences and that. How still retaining the way Stu sound, which I think
Mm.
was an accomplishment, really.
I heard the single. I thought it sounded fucking great.
Oh, right.
So,
Oh, really?
but
Thank you.
but you're a proper band. I mean, that's the thing. It's like you've been together a couple of years before you recorded the album, and so
Yeah.
you sound like, you know, when I first saw you, it struck me that this is a band, not, you know, a guy out of Wasted Youth, or a couple of guys out of Wasted Youth with a couple of session people. It was proper band, and so that makes a difference, I think, and comes across as that. We've got before we have to wrap up, I've got some, because we've been chatting. There's a lot of chat about, and we could probably go on for a very long time. There's some things that
tune in for next week for part 2.
Yeah, exactly. But I've just got a few little questions here. Okay.
Yeah. Are they quick fire questions?
They are. So you have to answer quite quickly.
Quick fire.
Do you ever feel lonely?
No.
Okay.
I enjoy it. I enjoy solitude. I enjoy
it.
Yeah, I really
think
enjoy it.
solitude is good.
I like it, and I think there's nothing I'd rather listen to than the thoughts in my own head.
Yeah. I mean, I like being around people for how long I want to, but then I like to be
exactly the same.
So having a party just seems like a nightmare to me, because I can't just leave, you know, but I don't mind going to a party for an hour or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is there one thing that you're afraid you won't accomplish in your lifetime?
Immortality.
Good answer. What is your biggest fear?
Falling from a great height. I've always, as long as I can remember, if I'm at height, even if I'm watching on television something shot from a helicopter or a film of someone mountaineering, my stomach goes and I begin to feel unwell.
Yeah.
So a real strong fear of heights.
I've got a fear of heights.
Really?
Well,
Perhaps we're related.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes you feel all weird. If you have to go to the edge of a cliff to look over a view or something.
I guess it kind of is true then, because I think it's about control. And I think when you imagine or dream or whatever, and there's been a height, and I have no control. And I think if I was to be in that position falling, that was it. I wouldn't be able to stop myself. It's not a nice feeling. And
you feel kind of almost as though you might fall. And I think it's probably the best way to murder someone is to take them up to a big high mountain view and say you were just taking pictures. Make sure they take a picture of you first.
Yeah.
And then their picture.
Yeah, but you wouldn't get me up in a mountain view, Andy.
Oh, right. Okay. Not so much dying, but thinking of perfect ways to murder someone. And
from dying to murder someone, I could think loads of ways to murder someone. But the problem is getting caught. You know, there's loads of ways that I could murder someone, but the problem is,
getting caught.
Managing to hide it.
I'm talking about perfect. I thought the perfect murder for myself, right? At one point, I had really bad time in that 2013-ish, around there. A fucking horrible thing happened, and I just felt like I fucking want to just give up. And I thought I just really don't like the idea of killing myself. It's just like, it seems so innately kind of against what my body wants it to do.
Good.
And so I thought the best way to do it was if I hired a hitman to kill me, and just arrange to be outside a cafe, you know, at a certain time and have them drive by. But then I couldn't find one.
Following up for that, I can't imagine a world without being in it. So I'm reluctant to commit suicide. But I have felt with all this about assisted dying, all that sort of thing, I'm being serious. What easier, quicker, cleaner way than doing it? We just to bang up a load of gear in one go, and I'll be gone. I wouldn't jump in at the front, doing it another way. It's so messy. And so that was my way out, really.
Yeah, I mean,
if I ever need one,
you sort of just do that for fun as well. If you've decided, you know. My mum said to me, right, she had Alzheimer's for like the last 7 years of her life, and she said to me way before, when she was younger, she said, if I ever get, she's talking about someone else who was like that. She says, if I ever get like that, I want you to push me down the stairs.
Yeah.
And so when she became like that, I remembered that when I was around her house once, so she was at the top of the stairs.
And you pushed her.
Down with those and I thought I could comply with her wishes now, but there's complications after that when the police turn up. That could be. So I did it. So maybe assisted dying before you have to get a relative in trouble.
Yeah. Perhaps we could plan to do it together, Andy.
Yeah.
If it ever gets to that point for both of us at the same time, I know where to look.
It'd be a nice publicity stunt as well for an album,
wouldn't it?
A collaboration or something.
But then we wouldn't be around though. We would be around though to appreciate what publicity it was.
We'd have to fake it, wouldn't we? We'd have to.
We could get two lookalikes.
Yeah,
and kill them.
Just
and
two people pushed over a cliff. And then, of course, everyone would buy the album. It was like, R.I.P. Ken and Andy, and there'd be glowing things. I met Ken after a gig. He was the loveliest man. Andy Blake couldn't be more generous with his time. All that sort of stuff. And then what would we do? We'd communicate with each other, saying, "What are we going to do now?"
Do you think we'd have to go into hiding or move to another country? Maybe we could move to Russia.
Become lookalikes and rejoin the band.
We could get plastic surgery. I could have plastic surgery to look like you, and you could get plastic surgery to look like me. When they done a DNA test, they realised I was wrong, and we're not the people they think we are.
Yeah.
It's a bit convoluted, I know, but I'll work with it. I'll work it.
Yeah, well, we'll develop that idea. We'll talk in a few years' time when,
if we're around.
Yeah.
How old are you now, Andy?
Hopefully, a few years' time. Anyway,
how old are you?
I just turned 64. That horrible Beatles fucking song.
You're a nipper.
Well, that is. Did you find that when you turned 64, everybody started referring to that song?
That song, but personally, again, subjectively, I felt by the time I was 40, I thought my life was over. I thought all the exciting parts, including the drug parts, but all the bits of excitement, I thought I'd never have that kind of enjoyment, that satisfaction ever again. But luckily, that hasn't been the case, and I've had some brilliant things happen to me in later life.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. It's almost, if I'd have known, that it almost seems like things are more sorted and better now.
Yeah.
And I know more about what I want and what I'm doing. And
you know yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand how I work, how I operate, my weaknesses, my strengths. And I'm sure you do as well. Back when I was 20, 25, I didn't have a clue. I didn't have, I couldn't.
Who is it? What's that quote? Youth is waste. Oh,
what's wasted, youth is wasted on the young. Is it or something? Yeah.
That's very true. Anyway, moving on with this quick fire.
Oh, yeah. I like this bit.
We're getting sidetracked a little bit, but it's good. It's all good. Yeah. Did we only go up to what's your biggest fear, didn't we? I've got another 6 of these to go. Just quick things then. Yeah. All right. So what's one thing you wish you could change about your past?
No, there is something, but I don't want to discuss
What's
it.
One thing you could change about your appearance?
To make me not so chubby.
If it wasn't for that, you would have signed that MCA worldwide deal.
There you go, yeah.
Anybody thinking of getting chubby and be a pop singer, don't.
Yeah.
All right, so what's the most meaningful relationship you've ever had?
With my children.
I think that's a very good answer.
Just that until they were born, I thought I understood about unconditional love, but it wasn't until they was actually born that I could look at them and feel, wow, I know what this feels like. And the thing is, I never became a father till I was 50.
Right.
But that was mainly, through my choice. I was careful. That was one bit of sanity that I thought, no way could I ever be a dad. So anyway, I was 50 when I had my first son, and it taught me a lot about that.
It changes a lot, doesn't it? That feeling though of unconditional love.
Yeah.
It's like, because until then you really don't. You can say you love somebody and love some things, but you don't really sincerely, love somebody.
That's so true.
It doesn't matter what they do. True. Yeah. That's not saying that every kid should be a horrible little cunt, but I can understand, like, parents whose son or daughter have been done for murder. I can understand them sticking by them, and
I can. As strange as it may sound to viewers or whatever,
I think for people that haven't got kids, it might sound strange, but anyone that's got kids,
exactly, anyone that's got kids. And the thing is, I suppose we all try to make the lives of our children unlike the lives that I had, because I grew up not without a dad, obviously, but without a dad in my life. I had an absent father, and I was determined that my kids won't grow up having a dad they never see or they never met before. And it's always been important to me, and I've stuck to it even when I split out with my ex a good 8-9 years ago. That I see the kids every other weekend, for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every other one. And it's not ideal, but I maintained that, and I did it because I wanted to do it, because I loved seeing them, and also, and that is still true now. They don't come down. They got getting their own life, their own sort of friend circle, but I'm still active in their lives.
Do your kids have good musical taste?
Yeah, with the elder son, he's a brilliant guitarist, and actually he's going to play a song with us in Brighton in a couple of weeks' time.
All right.
He lives near Brighton, and he's going to get him to do a song with us. But he's a brilliant guitarist, and he's into like Nirvana, Chili Peppers, all that sort of thing. I suppose in time he'll go back and trace, the roots of the music he loves back to, through punk and through whatever. My other son, who's 15, is totally not into making music or music that I like. He's into grime. He wears his hoodie up, and him and 50 mates all look exactly the same, all speak the same, all have the same interests. And it's something that I can't really relate to. Yet my older son, obviously I can relate to for his musical taste.
Is it a knife crime?
What, my son?
Yeah.
I hope not.
You have to be in a knife crime if you're in all of that scene.
No.
Knife crime.
Perhaps it's a plastic one. Perhaps you won't go that. That doesn't go that far.
I always like those knives that went in like that.
Yeah, do you remember them? Yeah, you had the handle and go into that. Why can't they replace all knives with those types?
Yeah, it seems obvious now.
We've hit on something.
Anyway, so got two more to get through.
Yeah.
What's a personal motto that you live by?
Anything less than excess is not enough.
Okay. All right. No wonder you got into trouble with drugs. Right. If you could go back and talk to your younger self, what would be the thing that you would say? If you're only allowed to say one sentence, one sort of message, what would it be?
Whatever you're going through, it'll be all right in the end.
That's reassuring. At least it's not. If you get introduced to a guy called Rocco, steer clear.
I met Rocco when he was 16 and I was 18 at my old school. Rocco was had a girlfriend at the school, and so yeah.
How did you feel about Rocco's foray into reality TV?
Well, I've always been in touch with Rocco, even when I sacked him from Wasted Youth in summer of 1982, and but I've always, been in touch with Rocco. We go back for a long way, and I followed his career, and we communicate regularly. We see each other as well. But when it went in, that was about 2009, 2010, and I watched it with curiosity. But I must say, and it was good for Rocco, and they paid well. But I can't say that it was something that I would like to have done. And I don't think a show like that necessarily portrays the person as they are. You only see it what's going to get views and being outrageous and being drunk and all that. So it wasn't the Rocco that I knew, really.
No.
It was edited to show him the worst side of him, most of it.
Yeah, I couldn't actually believe it was that Rocco.
Yeah.
So anyway, 2 more.
Yeah.
What would you like people to remember you for?
He's a good person. He's a good person that never set out to hurt anyone else, and respectful person. I think it's
Short and succinct.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. That I'm a good person. That I was a good person.
Have you got any toxic traits that you're not proud of?
Apart from smoking.
Yeah, I mean personal traits.
Oh, personal. Not really. I'm quite well-rounded in that. I don't get jealous, and not really, to be honest. A lot of things that a lot of people complain about, I don't really get affected by.
Okay. Do you mind what other people say? I mean, does it
nowadays? I don't know. No, I don't now. No, I used to a lot. I couldn't sleep about whatever, thinking about what does that person, what does she think, what does he say. Now, not just now, but for the last 15, 20 years, I'm thinking, no, I can feel comfortable in my own skin. If someone else has a problem with that, too bad. I'm happy with it myself.
Okay. Look, next to last question. This is just a new question that's just come in on, which is, when do you think you're going to die? I'll tell you, I don't know if this is bollocks or not, but someone told me, or I heard, that a man is likely to die the same sort of age his father died.
My dad died 10 years older than me. He died of a heart attack. My mum, she's almost 91, and she's mentally 100%. She's got no upward politics, music, everything. She's brilliant. But unfortunately, she's housebound. She's got no mobility. But so if it's in my genes, hopefully it's my mum's genes. But it all depends.
I wonder if that is actually true. Because if it is, I've only got 9 years.
Yeah. But you know what? And I know we're almost at the end, but I think having come through my own sort of health things, the cancer, and when I had the brain hemorrhage, and that left me disabled, and there's some other health things I've had, and some pretty close shaves with drugs and everything. I think I've been pretty close a few times in my life, much to the point that now I don't fear death. I don't fear death at all. I fear it being prolonged.
Do you believe that you just die, or do you think could be
no, that's it. You're dead. You're in the ground, feeding the worms and that. I won't know anything about it. I'll say to my kids, I don't care if you put me in a black bin bag. I won't know about it. It's the people you leave behind, not just me. When anyone dies, they're left.
How are you so sure that you just the worms?
Because I know.
How do you know?
Well, because I don't believe that anything, reincarnation or spirits or that.
Yeah, no, but just because you don't believe in something doesn't mean you know something.
Yeah, but I know.
No, you don't know. I'm afraid you actually don't know. I don't know either.
When we fulfill that pact we were talking about, we'll discuss it then.
Okay, but I would challenge you on that.
All right.
I would say
What about you? You tell me. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I actually think there's much more interesting possibilities than just worms eating your dead flesh in the mud.
Yeah, but I think
you
it's nice to think things like that. But I think in the actual reality, it's not true.
Well, it's nice to think things like that, and maybe it's nice to think that you're just worms, but the fact is no one knows, so you can't say I know.
But Houdini said, if ever
Let's
there's a
do an
way
arm
to
wrestle.
Houdini said, you know, just before he died, if there's a way to come back anyway, I will come back.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't mean it's possible for him to have done that. Einstein says that one of the things he's learned on his deathbed was that death is not the end, or something similar to that. And so did other learned people have said such a thing, Aldous Huxley being one. And so to say, I know, is, you know, asking for it. My book, I want more of an explanation than I know.
But maybe he's a bit arrogant, but I still think I know.
And I think you'll find out. But anyway. But someone I spoke to on this a few weeks ago said to me that this subject comes up, and it kind of obviously does come up.
Yeah.
After a certain age, and I find it interesting. And anyway, I've always been interested in that whole thing about death. But he said, you seem semi-obsessed with death. And I like the way he said semi-obsessed. So I was trying to be a bit polite about it. And I said that I'm not obsessed. I'm very interested. And it's like the closer that you get to the destination, the more, you know, when you know that you're going to fucking Spain in 6 years' time, you don't think about it. But the closer you get, you think, right, what do I need for Spain?
Yeah,
what kind of
have a look at what it look like and all that. Yeah.
And so it becomes more interesting, you know. But I don't know, obsessed the right way. But anyway, so I just don't know really. But I am, you know, I've had some spooky experiences that made me kind of question all of that. That won't go into now. But have you never had a kind of weird ghosty type thing happen?
Not for years and years. When we done the Rebecca's Room, our third single, where I'd experienced around our bedroom, me and my girlfriend's bedroom, which was really spooky. Weren't even stoned or that, and it's just some really weird things happened one night, and I wrote Rebecca's Room about it. But looking back, whether it was, I don't know. But I never placed any importance on it, really. I do. And I suppose back in the early youth days, we had lots of songs like Die, Baby, Die, Maybe We'll Die With Them, and These My Friends Are Dead. And I suppose there was a bit of an obsession with dying. But then again, I think it's somewhat romantic for a young person to talk about and sing about death. I wouldn't write a song now about dying, to be honest.
They say
I don't want to tempt fate, Andy. They
say sometimes that you dream, when you have dreams about people that are close, that have died. Yeah. That's the way of them. But have you ever dreamt about Andy?
Yeah, all the time. I was so close to Andy, apart from just my brother. He was my brother. But I know lots of people that aren't that close with brothers. But Andy we was like that. Really, all through and for the bands.
Do you still dream about Andy?
Yeah. I still do. I still talk to him.
And don't you think that's
a sign that there could be? I don't know. Yeah, I suppose I could be contradicting what I said earlier, but I think it gives me comfort. It gives me comfort, and sometimes when we've recorded, or I've recorded him, I've got a song to play him or to play. I think of Andy. I think. Is one of the people that when I'm writing songs, other than what I want, I think I wonder what Andy would have made of this. Yeah, so for sure.
Yeah,
it will.
Right, that's really cool. When did he die? Was that an OD that he died of?
No. I'll keep it short, but about 5-6 years ago, all that time, Andy was using a bit of gear. He was on methadone. He had a drink habit. And he decided to get clean. All the time, all through that time, I said to him that I'm here for him. I can help him, but he would have to initiate it. I can't just be there. So anyway, he never managed to do it. A year and a half, then about 5 or 6 years ago, he decided that he was going to clean up his act. He come off methadone, come off heroin, come off alcohol, and I had a year and a half of him like that, and it was like going back to when we were 20 again. It was so lovely, it was beautiful, and the way he looked, the way he spoke, it was like a different person. He was like that for a year and a half, and then he got diagnosed with cancer, you know, and then for a year and a half, there's a long protracted illness, and I saw him frequently during that time, and it was the most horrible thing to witness, someone in so much pain. Yeah. By which time, towards the last 6 months, he was on opiates, prescribed opiates.
There's always a silver lining.
Yeah, but the possible he couldn't eat because he was being fed through a tube in his stomach for the last 18 months. He couldn't drink, and it was horrible thing to actually witness. And so when he died, it was actually fact I felt he's gone now, somewhere better. The last year and a half.
How old was he?
About 3 years younger than I am. So he would have been about 60, 61 when he died.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it was much older. Did someone else in the band die of an OD?
Darren, the bass player, died in 2009, and Darren was after my brother. In my whole life, I've never loved a man like I loved Darren. He was my best friend, best ever. Well, different from Andy, but he was my best friend, roommate on tour. Even when we went on tour, we'd be trouble all the time. We'd go gigs. Before the Wasted Youth, I mean, we'd go gigs together. It was just my bestest ever. But then when I got clean in 1990, and Darren had cleaned up his act, and then I was going to university, we just sort of we lost contact, really, not through any reason, just life takes on its own sort of different things you have to do. And anyway, so I spoke to him on the phone a few times, but he died, I think it's 2009, but I love Darren so much. And I went to his funeral, and even Darren and Andy, I still think about them a lot.
Well, I bet they'd like the new band anyway.
Yeah, I think so. I would often, when we were speaking about me and thinking about Andy and talking to him, whatever. That is the one thing I thought, would they like this? Would Darren like this? And what would they think of it, what we're doing now? Would they turn around and say, oh, shit? Or would they say, no, it's really good, go for it? But so I consult them regularly in my mind, what I think they would have thought about something.
I'd like to know if there are any. Sometimes when I record things, I hear there's little voices and things like I've got friends as well that are into like recording EVPs, they call, where you record an empty room and then you listen back.
What's that? What is it?
And so it's like when you're in between, like what I did podcast not so long ago, and we were talking about someone that died recently. And as we were talking about it, you suddenly hear someone with his accent say something. I mean, it's not really loud, but it's loud enough to hear. Yeah. Me and the other guy didn't say that. And he was making a reference to what the other guy was talking about. He was talking about slaughtering the dogs, and then the voice goes, "I fucking hate slaughtering the dogs." and it took me out. I sent it to a couple of people and said, "Can you hear that?" So I'll listen back, and if there's any messages for you,
make sure you let me know.
I will. Before we go, right? Yeah. Final question, which is that how do you define success different today than it was when you started?
I think when we started, success, because I had quite a not inferiority complex, because I always felt like I had to prove myself, and on stage, I think I had to be bigger, really, like an alter ego on stage. But off stage, in private moments, I was not really like that. Not, my ego was fragile, but so success was some way of learning about my worth, perhaps in record sales, audiences, all that sort of thing.
Mm.
Difference nowadays, I think success is more personal, on a more personal level.
Yeah.
If I think something's successful, then that's enough for me. If other people like it, brilliant. If they don't like it, too bad. You can't please everyone.
I think you have to have the personal success, as in, you know, knowing yourself as a person combined with the outside. It's no good having the outside success and being a fuck up, because that's not going to help.
I'd agree.
On that note, it's been brilliant talking to you, Ken. And
lovely talking to you, Andy. And we haven't
have you got any,
for a while.
Have you got any gigs? You've got some gigs coming up, have you?
Yeah. We're touring. We're doing.
You're playing with Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie's supporting us at the Moth Club.
Right. Yeah.
The Moth Club. So if you fancy coming to that, drop us a text.
What date is that?
That's not till July 24th.
Oh, that's fine. This will be out by then.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I wouldn't mind coming to that. Jamie played with us at the 100 Club.
That's right. Yeah, because I come to that gig. Yeah.
He's good. I caught COVID that night.
Really?
Someone told me that Peter had it, and I might call it.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Jamie's a good performer, good songwriter.
In actual fact, he supported us the other week. We played in Northampton, and Jamie he played just on his own, a solo set. Right. And actually, I enjoyed it more than when he was with a band. I could hear the words, and I think he could, because it was only him to look at and understand. It was I found it more rewarding, more enjoyable than someone fronting a band. That's only me. I'm not saying that for everyone, but I really enjoyed it.
I remember Jamie. First time I met Jamie was at a gig that we did that Peter Perrott came along to with Jamie and Little Peter, and they were both sort of 10 and 11 or something, and they played support, just those two, with, I think they had a drummer friend with them, and they were like brilliant, but they were called the Cunts. I remember telling him backstage, I said, you might have a problem with exposure to the name. You might want to change the name. And he goes, no, we want to be called the Cunts.
Good t-shirt.
Yeah, he should change the name to Jamie Perrott and the Cunts. Anyway, nice one, Ken. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Brilliant. I'm gonna. What is it? What's the time now?
It's now. We've been talking for ages. It's 8 o'clock now, so we start.
So hopefully, I might catch the beginning of Antiques Roadshow. I think that's on in a minute.
Go for it,
Andy. It's been lovely, and definitely drop us a line if you want to come down to the gigs. I'll put you down.
I will.
And it'd be nice to meet up with you anyway. Be really cool.
Yeah, nice one. And answer your text more quickly in the future.
Yeah, but my phone, I'm not very good with phones anyway. I haven't got on my phone, I haven't got YouTube or Insta or anything like that, because frankly, they bore me, and also I can't operate them properly. They keep going. So, yeah.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Fuck technology.
Fuck it.
Fuck those youngsters.
What do they know about life?
That sounds wrong, doesn't it? Might edit that bit
Get
out.
arrested. Get arrested for that.
That's what Gary Glitter did. It's the
Gary Glitter. Once we met him at a service station in about 1982, and he'd blown a tyre on his tour bus, and he stopped us to see if we had a spare tyre in the service station, and we lent him a spare tyre for his van. If I'd known then what I know now, he would have fucking walked all the way home.
I feel a bit sorry for Gary Glitter, I must admit. I mean,
I don't.
He's because he was like king of the world one minute, and even in his old age, he still had this comeback, and all the establishment all loved him, and and money rolling in, and he still fucking makes tons of his royalties. Yeah, but he's now, for the last however long it's been, lived the life of a kind of weirdo, you know, pariah.
I mean, come on.
And instead, I mean, because the reverse of that would be Gary Glitter would be headlining Rebellion, and there'd be a fucking massive crowd.
Absolutely.
And he would be touring all over the fucking world. And he would be king of the world until he popped his clogs. And the sad thing is that he didn't pop his clogs ages ago, so it wouldn't have mattered. He's still seemingly quite healthy and could easily be doing the gang show every year at Wembley Arena.
And I bet as well, if he thought of for a few seconds and thought, I might better play rebellion, I wouldn't have done any of that behaviour. Because I'd had a rebellion to look forward to.
I'll tell you a funny story about that. He took his computer to PC World to get it fixed, and that's how they found his stash of porn. Round about the same, and they called the cops on that.
Wow.
Around about the same time, I took my PC into PC World because it had a glitch in it. But because it didn't play videos properly. And when they played the video, they found a video of me filming my mate filming me snorting a line of coke, and I'm going, nothing like the real thing or something like that. and I got a fucking phone call, right? Really? This is how hot on things PC World. They were like, PC is the right word. And police constables, and they phoned me up. The manager fucking phoned me up and said, your PC's ready, but if you don't mind, I'd like to come into the office to have a chat. I thought, what the fuck can he be talking about? And I really had no idea. And I'd just been reading about Gary Glitter. I was thinking, is there something I don't know about? And so I went down there, and he takes me in the office, and he says, I just want you to watch this and tell me your remarks on it. And he pressed play, and there's this video of me going, nothing like the real thing. And I just quickly thought, what the fuck is he bothered about this for anyway? I thought, oh, we were just mucking about doing an advert that was Flower. We were doing funny shit. It was before social media, so I couldn't say we were going to post it anywhere. And he said, there's nothing much I can do about it, but warn you that when you bring your computers in to be fixed, make sure there's nothing naughty on there, young man.
Oh wow! I didn't. Is that true about Gary Glitter? They really found out that well. Oh, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So
but then he fucking made it worse. I mean, if he just cut his losses with that, right?
Yeah.
Then okay, maybe we could have got over it. But then he goes to Vietnam, and starts meets some mum and pays for her daughter and blah 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 blah.
Just thoroughly nasty.
That was a stupid. Whoever his PR man at that point should have been sacked there and then.
Paul Gadd.
Don't look at it now. I wonder what all the diehard Gary Glitter fans who don't care, because I'm sure there are some Gary Glitter fans that really would just still go.
Do you think so?
Yeah. So there was a spoof thing that came up on Twitter quite a while ago that said Gary Glitter December tour and gang show Wembley, and I believed it. I thought, fucking hell, I was brave, but I bet there's enough people that would go, but it was not true.
Jimmy Savile could have been the compare. Who knows?
Yeah. Anyway.
All right then, Andy. Sorry, I thought you finished. Yeah.
Sorry?
I thought you'd finished.
We have finished. We could go on forever. We'll stop there on that happy note about Gary Glitter and Jimmy Savile.
Thank you.
But they moved Jimmy Savile had his grave, so it was raised at this special church he'd chosen so he could see the sea view from his grave, right? It was specially raised. But they had to then remove it's in a secret location now. So he hasn't got his sea view.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So have a nice evening, and we shall speak again at the gig, hopefully.
Yeah. Andy, thanks for asking me to do this. It's been a pleasure. Been lovely.
It's been a lot.
It's been lovely speaking to you. Take care, mate.
Speak to you soon.